Hello everyone, thanks for joining us today for the first in the series of the Elevenses Hangout on Air series, brought to you by the Google Partners team. So every second and fourth Wednesday of the month, we're going to take 15 minutes to discuss the latest Google AdWords, new features, new releases, trends, and also some seasonal and industry trends and opportunities. So my name is Joseph McEntee. I'm an agency development manager based in Dublin, and I'm joined today by...
Hi guys, I'm Alan Prendergast and I work here in Dublin as well as part of the Global Customer Experience team.
Fantastic. So today we're going to be discussing Google Shopping best practices with some top tips and some news about some recent shopping developments as well. So hopefully this is coming at a really important time of the year for your retail clients. We know Q4 is a very important time for retailers, and hopefully shopping campaigns are going to make up a core component of their online marketing strategy. So why are shopping campaigns so important? Well, we know that shopping conversion rates are 37% higher than non-branded search ads. Okay, so this is quite a powerful statistic, and we know shopping campaigns work very well as well on mobile with a nice expanded ad format and a really user-friendly carousel and swipe functionality. So making sure that your shopping campaigns are fully optimized, what we want to do is to take a holistic look at your shopping campaigns and the foundation of your shopping campaigns, which will of course be your merchant center feeds. Some of the agencies watching this will create and maintain feeds, whereas other agencies will only create the shopping ads and maintain the shopping ads, and they'll leave the feed creation and maintenance up to feed management vendors or companies. So regardless of if you're looking after the feeds or someone else is looking after the feeds, it's incredibly important that the foundation is in place in order to structure successful shopping campaigns. So what we mean by this is feeding into feed creation and making sure that you have labels in place and all the other features and functionalities in place that you're going to use further on down the line. So what we're going to do now is take our top 5 tips for structuring shopping campaigns from start to finish, and Alan's going to kick us off.
Yeah, thanks for that, Joe. So tip number 1 for myself would be the inclusion of a technical contact within your Merchant Center account. So the technical contact is going to be the first port of call that Google uses to inform of any messaging in the account, anything to do with the likes of account suspensions, product disapprovals, basic optimizations, anything like that, any information Google has, we're going to be sending that through to the technical contact on the account first. So if we take a look at this slide, what I've done is just give a very basic overview of a sample lifespan for a merchant running on Google Shopping and how Google will leverage the technical contact and the role that they would play. So beginning on the left, let's say we have a new merchant that they've just gone up on Google Shopping. They've got new ads up there and everything is running fine. They've passed the initial kind of checks to do with policy, the transfer of data from the website to the data feed. Everything like that is going fine. And 3 months down the line, there's been a major change on the site. Let's just say, the transfer of data out from site to feed isn't as slick. We run another review and we find that maybe there's a price mismatch on say 25% of products or something major like that. In a lot of cases like that, what Google will do is send out or place the account into a 30-day warning period. What we will allow is essentially the merchant 30 days to fix any major issues within the account. However, following that, if the issue hasn't been rectified, we would go ahead and suspend the account. So obviously something like that can have a huge disruption, particularly in Q4. So we need to make sure that the merchant has someone in place who's going to be notified of that straight away and is also given steps to fix. So by placing a technical contact in the account, you're going to be told that more or less day 1 of the 30-day warning period, and again given steps on how to rectify it. If we then take just a deeper look within the actual merchant account structure itself, where we would add that information, first of all, if we take a look at the left-hand screenshot, we would click into Settings and then General. That's going to pop up with a little blue button for Edit Settings, and then the screenshot on the right here will show exactly where we can go ahead and add in those details. So tip number one, essential to have that technical contact on the account. They're going to be the first person that we send that information to. If there isn't a technical contact on the account, however, very much going to be reliant on the admin user of the Merchant Center account logging in and basically reviewing over the Diagnostics tab to find that information. And I would appreciate with the amount of accounts that a lot of agencies are going to be dealing with, it's not going to be feasible to check every Merchant Center account every day. So I would take the pressure off yourselves, add an active monitor email address and technical contact, and that will rectify all those issues. And that leads us nicely into tip number two, which is actually how do we review and address issues in the Diagnostics tab itself. So basically, if anything, any way, shape, or form goes wrong in a Merchant Center account, again, structural issues in the feed, account suspension warnings, basic product disapprovals, Google will house all of that information, and we're going to place it for you in the Diagnostics tab in your merchant account. The first time you log into it, however, you may need to just see kind of how things are structured and know where exactly you need to look to find out the information as quickly as possible. So with the Diagnostics tab, what's key to know here is that it's a three-tiered structure whenever we click into it. It's going to give us messages and warnings on three different levels. And the first of all will be at the account level, and this will be found on the left-hand side of the Diagnostics tab. Any issues stemming at an account level are generally very critical, and we would advise actioning straight away. These would more often than not be account suspension warnings. So basically, if you have an error message at the account level, I would highly recommend actioning that as soon as possible, because likely that may lead to account downtime. In the middle tiering here, we see feed level. So these warnings would be a lot more structural in nature. So let's just say we've uploaded a feed that contains 50 additional lines that are just empty. They've got a lot of empty columns or something like that. What that will impact is the processing time on a Google site. So in order to streamline that, we're going to provide you, again, basic optimizations to the feed level and advise, maybe remove these columns, it's going to process a little bit quicker and allow the price to get up there as soon as possible. And then finally, the most widely used tab would be the product level. So this tiering gives it right down to the individual product ID, any disapprovals or any optimizations we could see. So probably best if we just see what this actually looks like in an account. And within this screenshot, this is a sample if we took the product level of a Merchant Center Diagnostics tab. So first of all, towards the top, we're going to have our graph, which is going to show us, all the products being approved, and then we can see just a little sliver of red towards the bottom. That's going to show us any disapprovals. So what the graph is particularly good at is establishing trends in terms of product processing. So we know that if we see a spike in disapprovals, say on a Monday at 3 p.m., there may be an issue with transfer of data from the site to the feed at that time, and we may need to investigate a little bit deeper. If we look a little bit towards the bottom, we're going to see some percentages there. What that will allow us to do is to pinpoint, what's the most prevalent area that we need to address in terms of product. I've got 3% of my items are constantly disapproved for price mismatch. That's going to allow us to action that one straight away. And then over towards the right, we can see first of all the download option. So if it's not yourself who handles these issues, we can easily allow you to download these in bulk and place them in an email and then send them off to, again, perhaps the webmaster, whoever's responsible for actually making the changes to the feed. And then finally, we've got some links which will allow us to clarify any of the disapproval reasons again, and also how to action them. So tip number two would be to familiarize yourself with the Diagnostics tab and know where to find that information very, very quickly within it. And with that, I'll pass you back over to Joe to take us through the rest of the tips.
Great stuff. So tip number three, harnessing the power of GTINs. So GTINs are global trade item numbers. Okay, and this is essentially a digital barcode for your products. So if you imagine going into an offline store, picking up a can of soup and wanting to find out the price of this, you'll bring it to the cashier and they'll scan the barcode and they'll quickly be able to tell you the attributes of that product, including the price. Well, GTINs work in a similar fashion. Each product will have a unique numerical value assigned to that product, which will be a GTIN. So every year we change we make some amendments to the required attributes that are needed for shopping campaigns. In September of this year, we announced that 50 brands, designated brands, including the likes of Adidas, Nike, and Converse, now are required to include GTINs within their Merchant Center feed. So if you're selling one of these brands, the condition is new, and that brand is either listed as in stock or out of stock, you have to include a GTIN, otherwise it will be disapproved. So what we'd always recommend is to go one step further and include GTINs for all of your products. So we know that all of your products you'll be supplied with GTINs for all of your products, be it by the manufacturer or the supplier. Make sure you're uploading them into your Merchant Center feed. The reason being is that once somebody goes and searches for a specific query, Google will try and match that query with the most relevant results. We'll show them a couple of different options in the shopping feed, and if we notice a trend over time that somebody's going to the same option, well, we'll try and show very similar products to that, because we know that that's a very good search result. The easiest way for us to show similar products is by using this global trade item number, which is unique to that product. No matter how descriptive you get in a title or a description, that will not be as useful as grouping products together as a unique numerical value, in this case a GTIN. So what we're finding is that products with GTINs receive up to 40% more user clicks than products that do not have them. So get into the practice of start including GTINs as much as possible, and that will make sure that you're in the auction as much as possible. So tip number 4, structuring for success. We already mentioned that your Merchant Center feeds will form the basis and the foundation for success later on when you go to optimize your shopping campaigns. Well, what we'd always say is, you know, it can be quite disheartening going into a shopping account and seeing one campaign with one ad group and all products listed with a rounded £1 figure. Okay, because this kind of goes against the principles of AdWords of bidding against what you value a click to be worth. So if, for example, in your Merchant Center feed, you have 10,000 products, and within your campaign, in your one ad group, in your one all products grouping, you are bidding £1 across all 10,000 products, it's very unlikely that the profit margin or even the return on ad spend is going to be the same across all of those different products. So what we'd recommend is start grouping those different products together according to return on ad spend or profit margin, or even taking individual products and then bidding against them using a bid that makes sense in relation to their return on ad spend. Another thing you can do is set priorities. So if you have multiple campaigns, you can, in the settings tab, you can set a priority. In this case, we're saying, right, it's Christmas time. Of all of our clothing items, we want to place more of an emphasis this month on Christmas jumpers and musical ties. So we're going to create a campaign with Christmas jumpers and musical ties, bid higher on them, and we're going to set them to a high priority. Because if there's overlap, well then the high priority will kick in and that will take effect, and we'll go in with the bid set at the high priority level. So a very useful one as well. And finally, tip number 5, and a personal favorite of mine, is shopping plus RLSA. So using remarketing lists for search ads on shopping campaigns. Now this is also a recent launch, and this has recently been launched across 100% of AdWords accounts. So that should be live for you now in all of your accounts. Essentially, what this is allowing us to do is to bid higher or lower on people who have already visited or engaged with your site. So we can say, we can start to categorize users as being new users, or users that have visited your site before, who have maybe visited a product page, maybe put something in your cart and abandoned it, or even better, have previously purchased from your page. By grouping people, by putting people into these groups, we're able to say, okay, well, a homepage visitor, someone returning a second time after they've had a bit of time to consider, brilliant. We want to bid, let's say, 100% higher on these people than we do on our standard bid, which would be for new users. However, previous buyers, well, we know they're extremely important for us. And if they've purchased before and they've gone to the effort of registering, we know that the likelihood of them coming and purchasing again if they're returning is extremely high. So we want to bid maybe plus 300% on those people, with 900% of course being the maximum bid allowed. So a very, very useful tool. And what we're finding is that customers who use shopping remarketing lists see a 10% conversion increase and a 35% CPA decrease. The reason being is that people, once they return to your site, are much more likely to make a purchase than people that are visiting it for the first time. So there you go. There are top 5 tips for Google Shopping ads to make sure that you're ready for the upcoming holiday season. Thanks very much for joining us today. We'll be back in 2 weeks' time with another Elevens Hangout on Air. But for now, that's goodbye from us.
Yeah, see you guys.
See you guys.